10 must-have GA4 reports for all SEOs. I've got 20 minutes up here, 10 reports that I need to talk about how to set up, how to actually read the data on them, and what inferences you can draw from that. Doing a little bit of quick maths, that's about 2 minutes per report. And the very first thing that strikes me is, why the fuck do I do these things to myself? But anyway, let's not whinge. Let's plow right on. Gird your loins. Get ready. Don't fall asleep, because you will miss a report, even if you wink a little bit. My name's Farhad. I run Acuracast. I also am the MD of an agency called Outloud. I am on the board of directors of Rounders, the governing body. And I have an app called Help Me Choose, so go and look it all up. What I do in my free time, when I'm not doing any of those other things, is advise brands on strategy for international growth and how they can do that at scale, so rather than going France, then 5 years later Germany, do it all together. And the way we do this is a lot of technology, which obviously involves a lot of data, which is why I have this love-hate relationship with GA4 and myself. And then I do things like 10 or 20 reports in 20 minutes. But yeah, some of the clients that we work with, hopefully you recognize some of these names. And I know everybody knows GA4 is different. It makes people cry. It made me want to cry initially. I'm kind of starting to maybe like it. But yeah, get used to it is a better way, maybe. The big thing that's different about GA4 is it's events-based. So if you're used to working with Facebook Pixel, very similar. The entire idea is that no matter what you want to measure, it can be an event, which you then go ahead and measure it, rather than UA, which used to be sessions and page views based, where it was very much limited, and then events came on as an afterthought. So in many respects, theoretically speaking, GA4 is a lot more flexible. Now, what I did, like any other good marketer in 2023, I went to ChatGPT and I said, what are 10 must-have GA4 reports? You know, job done. And this is, I actually didn't just do one query. I pressed the rethink or whatever that button is to regenerate it. And ChatGPT gave quite a few different things. And I sorted it by popularity. So acquisition report was the most popular one that came up most number of times. Technology, top conversion paths, etc. Not so frequent. Please go and look at these, you know, humor them. Luckily, I actually had much nicer suggestions. The very first one, which was actually also recommended by ChatGPT, is the Search Console. This is a bit of a hidden one. You don't get this by default, very strangely, on GA4. You have to go in there and enable it. And the way to do so is you go to this little library, you then click on Create New Collection, and then you'll get a collection for Search Console. Once you create that Search Console collection, you'll then start seeing organic keywords, landing pages, things like that. You can rename these, so what you're seeing out here is a renamed version of those. And then, of course, it gives you pretty useful data. Unfortunately, it does not tell you what keywords they are, because that would be asking for way too much from Google. But it will tell you things like, you know, these keywords had so many organic search clicks, the keywords that are identified, and how many impressions, the click-through rate. It won't tell you how many conversions, because, of course, why would we want to know that, right, Google? And you can see all of this fantastic data. Go take a look at it. If I don't reach report number 5 by the 10-minute mark, everybody please panic, okay? What do you get from this report? Essentially, what you want to get out of it is which queries are sending traffic to your website. Is that traffic more or less staying on the website, or is it bouncing right off? And if it is something important, are you actually getting the sort of click-through rates that you need to see? Or is something going wrong with your search listing? It also tells you which organic pages or which landing pages the organic search traffic is going to, which of course then tells you, are you actually ranking the page which you expect to rank, or is something cannibalizing something else, for example? And of course, if it isn't the page which you've optimized for that keyword, you've obviously done something wrong. Another very useful report is the conversion paths. As somebody who advises brands on strategy to grow, I am very much driven by conversion. I'm driven by data that leads to actionable insight, because if I'm not delivering sales and conversions, my clients go out of business, which means I then lose that client, and everybody's sad all around. So making sure that you follow those conversion paths, deblock them, and so on is very important. The way to do that with GA4 is you go into the Explore tab, you then click on Path Explorations, you give it a nice name, and then you go into the bit which says create a custom segment, create a segment. There's a little menu on the left, which says segments, and then you click the plus button, it allows you to create a segment. You can either choose a user segment, which is based on the user's entire lifetime of interactions on your website, or a session segment, which is specific to that particular time they visited your website, as against all the multiple times they've been coming there. So yeah, you click that segments button. In this case, I'm just taking a session segment because it's the conversion session that I'm interested in. And what I'm then doing is I'm segmenting only by people who came on Google Organic, because this is a talk about SEO. You make sure that you get that in there, keep up PowerPoint, and you make sure that it's people who've actually made a purchase, because this is a conversions path. If it's not a purchase, if it's a lead, you choose that. Whatever it is you want to be optimizing towards, you make that choice right there. That conversion event is what you do. Once you've created that segment, you'll go in there and you'll actually just see the first two of those. What you then can do is click on each of those, and it will then give you what happened from that point on to the next, and then the next, which essentially means you can track from the starting point how people navigated from an organic search result to a conversion. And if in your minds, your UX guys had told you, yeah, it's just 3 steps to conversion, and you're not just seeing 3 steps for the vast majority of people, somebody screwed up somewhere. So what's this telling you? Very obviously the organic conversion journey. Next thing you want to do is start learning to segment organic traffic and apply that to all of your regular GA4 reports. So you go in there, you click the plus button, you then say session source medium. You can also do user source medium. This is Google Organic. And then you click that little hidden apply button, which is right here. And then you'll be able to see all the regular behavioral stuff, but segmented only for your organic search results. For site speed, this is a good one, but it's quite a complicated thing. So if you're not very tech savvy, I would get somebody who's tech savvy involved. These guys, David Vallejo, he's made a fantastic tutorial. Just go to this URL, and since I'm running out of time, I'm not going to get into that because we're starting to get to panic mode right now. So just go in there and you'll see page speeds. These are real-time, not real-time, but real page speeds, not just measured. This is what your actual users have on their journey through your website. How long does the page take to load? How long is it taken for them to turn into a conversion, and so on. Next, we'll move on to referral traffic. This is for the link builders. It tells you whether pages that you've got links on are actually sending traffic to your website, or are they just serving as link portals. If they are sending traffic, what's that traffic actually doing? You go to explorations once again. You click you get page refers in there as one of the dimensions. I'll show you how in a second. And then you'll actually see a whole bunch of the referrers, and they'll tell you, how many clicks came to the website in a given period, how long they stayed, whether they converted, so on and so forth. you take that page referrer dimension, you'd apply it to your rows, and then you get this. Now, if you just look at the referrals report in GA as regular, in GA4, it doesn't give you the same, ooh, had to be, just turn it off. And it's a spam call. I put it on Do Not Disturb. Anyway, so page referrers, the regular referral report on GA does not actually tell you all this detail. You have to go and create this exploration to find the actual URLs that are sending the referrals to you. You might want to expand it to show quite a few rows, because by default, it'll just show you 10 rows. And what you then want to do is, of course, pull out certain things like, does not contain Google, Bing, Google Ads. Also, it should contain your website route or some sort of thing that indicates it's loading pages, because you will actually see a few not sets, which I haven't quite figured out why Google does that, but it shows it. To remove those not sets, go and put this slash in there. As I said, what this tells you is which link sources actually drive traffic. Next thing you want to see is SEO landing pages. You go into the landing page report. You've got your good old segment, which tells you organic traffic. You create that segment. You once again do this. And you get information on whether the optimized pages or pages that you thought were optimized are actually retaining visitors and converting them, or are they just serving as traffic numbers which do nothing for your business? I've got a much nicer report which actually dives a little bit more into that, and that'll come in the end. Another thing you want to see is SEO Paths, which is very similar to conversion paths, except here what you're doing is only segmenting by organic search traffic, and you're looking at just where these people are going. Whether or not they converted is not being considered. It's just when they're coming into the website, what are they actually doing after an organic search and in there. The only difference from the previous one is we're not refining it to only people who purchased. So the previous one we looked at was people who purchased after an organic click. This one is telling you any search result who came in organically on some landing page, what have they done? Whether or not they converted, what have they actually been up to on the website? It gives you that same path report, very handy to look at. If you have multiple websites on a single GA4 property, I mean .fr, .es, .de, those sort of properties, as well as subdomains or mobile app and regular desktop site, all of those in one, you might actually need to see a data stream breakdown. You create an exploration. This time, you put your host name as a dimension. You drag and drop that in there, and then I've just blanked out the host names. It'll show you out here, website.fr, website.de, website.uk, and so on. And then you get your total users, in my case, I like seeing return users, new users. I like seeing conversions always. Also engagement, so on and so forth. This allows you to track all of your various domains, make sure the ugly child who you forget about all the time gets brought back to light in this report. As I've said, you add those bits and pieces in there. This is important because it's telling you how your regional sites are performing for SEO. Scroll tracking. Who's enabled scroll tracking on GA4 already? Have you looked at the information that it gives you? Does it show you just 90% and nothing else? That's what GA4 does by default. So when you look at scroll tracking on GA4, they think people have either seen the entire web page or nothing at all. There's no in-betweens. You obviously need a proper scroll tracking report, which tells you, have they gone and looked at a little bit? Have they gone quarter, halfway through? Especially for the longer pages. What you do is you go into GTM. So all of the reports so far, fantastic news, you didn't have to touch Google Tag Manager, except the page speed one, but that's anyways very technical. This is the only other one which needs GTM configuration. You go into GTM, You create a trigger based on scroll depth. You add in percentages. I like using 25, 50, 75, and 90. Don't use 100%, because that doesn't actually record, I think, in most cases, even if people have gone almost all the way down. You then create a tag in GTM, which sends an event called scroll. Be mindful of the name. It has to be scroll, because that's what GA4 recognizes. You send a parameter called %_scrolled. Again, be mindful of the name. And in that parameter, you send those scroll depth threshold values, which you did in the previous slide. When you send all of that information triggered on the scroll distance trigger, which I mentioned, you will then see a report which tells you, this one by default is giving you the entire website, how people have been scrolling, and you can see what percentages and so on. What you can then do is also create a filter. First of all, you need to filter it down by the event, so it has to be just a scroll event, but then you also create a filter based on page names, and you can go, this particular landing page for organic traffic, how far down did people actually scroll? What I love seeing is, all those lengthy articles that your SEO guys tell you to write, see how much people are actually reading. The results might be alarming. Come back and thank me later. The last one, and we're actually doing so well on time. I'm proud of me. Content stickiness. This is my absolute favorite report. So when you are, when you're doing things like your purchase paths and your SEO paths and so on, all of that tells you various bits and pieces on conversion. It also does leave out in some ways, if you're looking at purchase, then you're obviously leaving out everybody who's not purchased. If you're looking at just SEO paths, you're kind of going, how have people navigated around? What this report aims to do is tell you all those fantastic content pages you create, those landing pages optimized for various keywords and so on, are they actually turning into business for your website? Not just in terms of purchases, but in terms of awareness, consideration, intent, and so on. What I like doing for this report is you create an exploration. You start with the landing pages, and in this case, I've called it info landing pages. So I think I've got yeah, okay. So going back here, we'll create the info landing pages, and then we have the dimensions you'll import. The dimension is the page path and query string. What you then do is info landing pages in your website might be /blog. It might be /article. It might be all sorts of things where you've created those heavy content pages with the intention of attracting organic clicks, or even your landing pages for paid media. You can use it for all sorts. You create a segment which is based on people who landed on those pages. You make sure that that URL path, it can be a general path, it can be a specific page, whatever it is, at any point in time. It's not just at that particular instance that you're looking at the report, but at any point in the user's journey through your website. When you segment by the info landing pages, and then you look at the page path, and plus query string, yeah, you then start looking at views, the active users, and the average engagement time. This will start telling you, after they landed on this page, which pages did people typically go to? And if this report for you is relatively empty, that's telling you that people are coming to that page and bouncing right out. They're not actually scrolling through and consuming the rest of your website as you hope they would. That to me is a cause for alarm bells, because then you're getting traffic, but it's traffic for traffic's sake. It's not traffic that's actually doing anything for your business. You obviously want to go in there, and what you can do is also see things like, I see this very often with blogs. you'll have /blogs, and then people only go and see other related posts. They don't actually go to your money pages, your services pages, your product pages, and so on. So you might want to exclude that blog section and see how many people are then scrolling from your blog and not just looking at related posts, but actually looking at your services, product pages, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's it. Any questions? Come and see me later. Hope this has been useful. Thank you.